morning, afternoon, evening, or ungodly hour to you. I'm Meanie Mosey, and this is my first reaction video to the popular anime series One Piece. I've decided to watch the show on my own time and provide updates in this reaction video series that I like to call the State of the Mary, because that's the ship that they ride on, the going there. In the future, I'll review entire sagas at a time, but for this one, I accidentally watched 3 sagas before I got around to making a video for it. So that should tell you a bit about what I think about the show. I love the show. I love it so much. This is the quick review with no spoilers that you can show to your friends who you've been trying to convince to watch it. Good luck. I'm new to anime. I'm brand new to anime, and One Piece is quickly becoming my favorite. I'm not gonna say one of my favorites, it's becoming my favorite. I'm only 3 sagas in, and it's already made me cry. It's made me laugh out loud, and not one of those little breathing air out the nose chuckles that you do whenever you see a meme. And it has some amazing and super dope action scenes that are just like, oh my gosh. And the fact that One Piece is so long should not be seen as a detriment. Because One Piece is so long, I know that it's always going to be there for me. Whenever I'm in between shows on my watch list and I don't feel like starting something new, I can just keep watching One Piece. And it's guaranteed entertainment. Enough of that, on to the review. This video could easily go all over the place. So instead, I'm going to break it up into chunks. First, I'm going to talk about things that I love, and I'm going to talk about my favorite Straw Hat, and then I'm going to talk about my favorite moment. Things I love. There are several. I really love the power balance and the chemistry between all of the characters. Everyone has something that they're good at. Zoro is an amazing sword fighter, Sanji is a great chef, Nami is an awesome navigator, and everyone defers to the correct person whenever it's necessary. There's a great mutual respect here. Everyone acknowledges the other person's strengths, and everyone is also aware of their own limitations. And I also really love the fact that everybody has obvious limitations. Usopp is terrified in every battle that he goes into, so he can't win fights like Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro do. Zoro, even though he's a skilled fighter, he thinks that up is the same thing as north. And then you have Nami, who's not skilled at all in combat, but she's not content with that. So she has Usopp build her this lightning stick weapon so that she can become self-reliant in battle. I love that everybody minds their own business. If someone is struggling with something, people won't help unless that person asks. The members of the Straw Hat crew are all good people, but they're not heroes, and they don't try to be. On Drum Island, Luffy doesn't climb the mountain so that he can force Dr. Kureha to reconsider her practice and move down to an area that's more accessible to the people. He heard that this doctor only comes down when she wants to, and so he decided to go up to her in order to heal his friends. He's not going to try and make her redo her whole entire life or beat her into like doing what he thinks is correct. He's going to follow the rules. People are left to live the way that they want, and that's none of the Straw Hats' business unless they make it the Straw Hats' business. Like when Bellamy and his crew attacked Mont Blanc Cricket and stole all of his gold. When Luffy and Zoro first met them, they didn't feel like fighting them. They knew that it wouldn't be worth it, but as soon as they harmed one of Luffy's friends, it was personal. I love that every battle I've seen so far has been similar and yet still challenging, and the difficulty continues to increase. The first thing that Oda typically does in every fight, though, is incapacitate Luffy in some way. He has to do this in order to make sure that the fight lasts longer than 2 seconds. At Arlong Park, he got his feet stuck in a block of cement and he was thrown into the water. In Little Garden Island, one of the giants placed a skull on his torso so that he couldn't move for the first half of the fight. In Alabasta, after his first battle with Crocodile, he was buried in the sand and had to be dug out. And in Skypiea, he was in the belly of a snake for a long time while all the fighting was going on. When it comes to fighting, Luffy is a force of nature, and his strength and creativity in battle are a plot device that I think that Oda has used very well so far. It hasn't gotten repetitive. With each battle, I know the crew will come out all right. The series is over 900 episodes, so I kind of already figure that out, but I'm always guessing how that's gonna happen exactly. The last thing I'll mention is I love the weight that words and promises carry in this world. These characters do everything that they say they're going to do. Each crew member has their own lofty goals, and they talk about them as though they're statements of fact. Zoro doesn't say, I want to be the world's greatest swordsman. Zoro says, I will be the world's greatest swordsman. In episode 3, when he first joins Luffy's crew, he promises that he will devote all of his time to becoming the world's greatest swordsman. When he gets defeated by Mihawks later, he makes another promise to Luffy that he will never lose in a fight again. Zoro's just one example, but everybody has these grand promises, and these grand promises are being constantly reinforced by these smaller promises that are consistently being issued and fulfilled. For example, Luffy told Vivi that he was going to kick Crocodile's ass, and whenever Luffy says that he's going to kick someone's ass, he does it. He told Mount Block Cricket that he was going to go up to Skypiea and ring the golden bell for him, and he does exactly that, even though ringing the golden bell meant that he had to defeat Lightning himself, Inaru, with a giant, who knows how many ton gold ball on his hand. Luffy also got pissed when he met the whale Laboon, and he heard that Laboon's old pirate crew promised him that they were going to come back for him, and they never did. So Luffy made Laboon a new promise, and he told him that he's going to come back for him. So I believe that we'll be seeing Laboon again in the series. My point is, when people say they're going to do something in this world, they mean it wholeheartedly. So I'm only 3 sagas in, but already I have no doubt that Luffy is going to find the One Piece and become king of the pirates, that Zoro's gonna be the greatest swordsman, that Sanji's gonna find the all blue, and Nami's gonna make a map of the whole entire, I forgot if it was the world or the Grand Line, but she's gonna make a big map. And I have no doubt that they're all going to do it. The only thing that's left is to find out how. For my favorite Straw Hats, I really like Usopp, and I think it was because I thought that I wasn't going to like him, and the fact that I like him so much gives him a little extra bit of bonus points and kind of like bumps him up in the rankings a little bit. He reminds me a lot of Sokka from Avatar: The Last Airbender. They both have the same type of ineptitude where they're not the most skilled fighter. Sokka, for example, he's a non-bender. He doesn't have magic water like his sister. And then Usopp only has his little inventions that he makes. So these two characters, they're left to be kind of like the crafty inventor with common sense and sarcasm.
Quit comparing me to you and all the other superhuman freaks! Now you're annoying me.
My prediction is that because of the weight that words carry in this world, Usopp is no longer going to be a liar at the end of the show, because he'll have done everything that he claims that he already has done. He will command armies and he will become a captain. I don't know if he'd leave the crew, but he always says that he's going to be Captain Usopp, so I don't know, maybe he'll get his own crew and leave the Straw Hats. I don't know. I'm sad now. These are my top 3. The next one is Chopper. I've loved Chopper since his very first line. He was like, "Shut up, lady. Oh, and can you tell me how your temperature's doing?" Oh my gosh. That was like, he is the most adorable blue-nosed reindeer doctor I've ever seen in my whole life. I love that he hides wrong, that he doesn't know how to hide. I love that he can't take a compliment at all. I'm just so happy that he's on the crew. I don't have much to say about him, but his recruitment scene was my favorite recruitment scene, I'll say that. Big surprise, my number 1 favorite Straw Hat is Luffy, but here's why. He's an awful leader, but he's also a really great leader. Basically what he's done is he's found all of these people who excel in areas in which he failed. He doesn't know how to read maps, so he found Nami. He doesn't know how to cook, so he found Sanji. He needed a doctor, so he found Chopper. This is a good quality of leadership, acknowledging your weaknesses and trusting your followers. But what Luffy seems to have done, though, is assemble a highly skilled crew of babysitters who are entirely self-sufficient. He can run off and have whatever adventure he wants, and the crew will be just fine. Of course, Luffy excels at protecting his crew, but more often than not, the crew follows Luffy rather than Luffy leads them. Luffy makes decisions based on what he wants to do, and once he makes a decision, he does it. Most of the time, those decisions are based off of what sounds fun or what could provide the most adventure. But every once in a while, Luffy will decide to do something that is incredibly wise. And I believe that Luffy does this with his actions. A few events come to mind, but I'll mention a couple. First is during the Arlong Park arc. Nami's sister is trying to convince the crew to leave Nami alone and mind their own business about the whole situation. So she's going to explain Nami's backstory. The crew says, sure, you can explain it, but it's not gonna change anything. And then Luffy, he decides to take a walk. He says, I'll pass. I don't need to hear any of this. I don't care about her past. He's already made up in his mind that he's going to protect her, no matter what. We find out that when it comes to things that Luffy doesn't care about, gossip about his friends, for example, Luffy's not interested in the slightest. He's not even going to be within earshot of that. And I love that he's set apart from the crew in this way. Next is during the Alabasta arc, and I forgot what city they're approaching, but they're almost ready for their big final fight, and then Luffy just sits down and says that he quits. Nobody knows what this kid's doing. After that, he proceeds to get into a fight with Vivi, and he reveals that she was going to go into the battle only risking her own life, and she wasn't willing to put anybody else's life on the line. Nobody else saw that, and I guess everybody assumed, like I did, that she knew the risks going into battle and that everybody was in danger, but apparently she didn't know that, and she wasn't willing to risk anybody else's life except for her own, and Luffy called her out on that. Somehow, I don't know how to best describe this, but Luffy was able to see Vivi's emotions when nobody else could, not even Vivi. Luffy is incredibly silly and childlike, but he has shown wisdom on multiple occasions. This wisdom and insight is something that nobody else on the crew has so far, and that's why Luffy makes a great captain, because if anybody else was captain, Luffy's intuition would get walked on, and in moments where decisions mattered the most, they would all be screwed. My favorite moment in these 3 arcs so far, it is episode 37, 18 minutes and 20 seconds in, and it goes through the end of the show. My gosh, Nami had just failed at stopping the village from going to attack Arlong. She knows that if they go to attack him, they're not going to succeed, and the villagers know that too, but they want to fight for her sake, so they go anyway. Nami falls to the ground. She is filled with complete and utter sorrow because everything that she'd worked for since she was 11 for the past 8 years has all ended in nothing. And so she begins to look at her Arlong Pirates tattoo on her arm, and she starts to scratch at it and try to peel it off, and then she sees the knife that was in her hand, and so she grabs a knife and she starts stabbing the tattoo, and she's cursing Arlong's name, and she just keeps stabbing herself repeatedly. And this sounds really gory right now, just describing it, but it was really good. And Luffy just grabs her arm and makes her drop the knife, and Luffy's just standing there not saying anything. And Nami's like, what are you doing? I told you to leave. Get out of here. And she starts flicking dust at him. And he's like, yeah, you did tell me to leave. Yeah, it's none of my business. Yeah, I don't know a single thing about what's going on here. And then after a moment, Nami just turns around with tears in her eyes. And she says, Luffy, help me. The camera goes back to Luffy, and his face has completely changed. It's dead serious, and you can't even see his eyes, and his hat is just down low, and so he takes off his hat and he puts it on Nami's head, and he's like, of course, that's what friends are for, and he turns around, and then the camera zooms out, and you see Sanji, Zoro, Usopp standing right there, and they are ready, and they are waiting. And he says, let's go. And they're all right. And then we go back to the gates of Arlong Park, and the 2 guys that were traveling with them for a minute, they're like, we can't let you guys in. He's talking to the villagers who all like showed up. He's like, we can't let you guys in. We're waiting for a group of certain men. And Overtaken is like playing in the background like and like they're all just walking, and like all four of them just walking in a straight line, just looking like dope as heck. And they reach the gates of Arlong Park, and Luffy bashes in the gate, and he's like he stands up, like there's dust everywhere, and he's like, all right, which one of you is Arlong? And like the fact that he didn't even know who he was walking in to fight, that moment, it gives me chills all the time. Like as soon as you saw Luffy's face, like you knew it's about to go down. This dude is about to get it. Arlong's gonna rue the day he ever set foot on this stupid little island. Yeah. So One Piece is my favorite anime. I will be continuing to review the series as I watch brand new sagas. I'm not making any predictions. I'm just like along for the ride. My only prediction is that everybody's gonna do what they said that they're gonna do. Everybody's going to become successful and achieve their hopes and dreams. And it's gonna be a really feel-good show. Well, I think at some point I'm gonna come back and watch this video and think this aged poorly. But yeah, that's the whole point of making this video. I know I'm way behind. I'm way behind everyone else as far as watching this, but I'm really happy I started watching it. And yeah, I'll catch you guys next time on the State of the Mary. Peace.
Bruh.